What's up everyone? In this video I'm going to be showing tutorials for out of bounds glitches in Resident Evil 4 that you would want to use when you are doing a speed run on a version of this game that runs at 30 FPS. The glitches I will be showing specifically are the Waterfall skip, which is the first one I'm going to show here, and then I will be showing the Salazar skip and the Island skip. The island skip, however, is not actually only possible at 30 FPS anymore, thanks to a pretty recently found new setup for it. Now it's actually possible on every single version of the game, regardless of the frame rate. But with the case of Waterfall and Salazar skips, those are only possible on versions that run at 30 FPS. So just for anyone who may not be aware, the versions of this game that do run at 30 FPS are GameCube, PlayStation 2, PC07, Wii, Wii U, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. In my case, for this video, I'm playing on the Wii version for all of these demonstrations, but again, all of these will work on any of those versions I just listed. So, with that, I think I'm good to go ahead and start the tutorial for the Waterfall skip. So for Waterfall skip, there's actually two different setups I'm going to have to show, because it works a little differently depending on the category you're playing. If you're playing on New Game or New Game Plus, it's going to be a different setup. So first I'll be showing the New Game setup. And the reason it is different is one, the fact that you're going to have the Ditman glitch on New Game Plus, and the bigger difference is the weapon you're holding. So on New Game, you're going to be holding a single fire rocket because you will have equipped that after coming down from this area where you shot the boxes to come across here. And then you would equip the single fire rocket there because that's the weapon you're going to use to kill Gigante. So that's what you'd be holding here. Whereas on New Game Plus, you're going to have Ditman active, and you're going to be holding the infinite rocket launcher. And the difference in the weapon you're holding means Leon's body position is going to be different, and the visual cues you will want to use to get your positioning correct for this glitch are going to be different. So what I will discuss now is two different things that I want to go over first. Both of these things are going to apply regardless of category. The first thing I want to mention is there is a chance with this glitch, if you fail it in a certain way, you can soft lock the game. You will clip through the floor and fall infinitely. So if you are new to this glitch and you're still trying to get used to it, trying to get comfortable with it, maybe you're not that confident in getting it first try, and you're worried about that happening, what you can do is when you climb up the ladder, you can pull this lever. And if you do that, what it's going to do is it drops the waterfall, right? And it gives you a new checkpoint. So now if I reset the checkpoint, I'm going to respawn right here at this lever. Whereas if you do not pull this lever, you are going to be spawned way back up top before you shut the boxes. And that's going to lose a ton of time if you clip out. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, so this entire glitch works based on stepping back. Like, you get set up a certain way and then you have to step back a bunch. So I want to talk about the movement involved in stepping back. And again, this is going to apply for both categories, so I just want to get this out of the way first, because this can definitely be, there is a potential source of confusion here. So when stepping back for this glitch, you'll need to step back a few times, and you want to take just like singular steps, just like small steps like this, that you would get just by flicking back on your control stick or hitting your D-pad lightly. Now, the thing with those that I need to clear up is there's a difference between getting that minimal distance small step and what I like to call a phantom step. And what a phantom step is if you hit the button too lightly, you will see Leon move, but he doesn't actually move back any. And this applies for going forward as well. But I'll try to demonstrate that. Basically, if you hit it very lightly, you'll see Leon flinch a little bit. Like he'll just kind of nudge. So that looks something like that. Just did it like 4 times there. 5. So you just see him flinch a little, you know, but he's not actually moving back any. You need to look out for that in this glitch because it's pretty precise how much you need to step back. You'll need to be counting your steps back in some cases. And you don't want to do that and count it as a step. That could lead to a major problem. So when you're stepping back, make sure you're actually moving. Make sure Leon is actually moving back and not just doing one of these little flinches. So that's going to be very crucial. So I wanted to cover that first. And also regarding the steps, of course, you know, you can take accidentally a bigger step back like that. So just try to be, you know, kind of light on the steps and taking the minimum amount of movement like that. And that's kind of why the phantom step can occurs, you know, just from trying to lightly step back. But yeah, taking a slightly bigger step back, it may not be detrimental, but it's definitely something you want to avoid, and it potentially can mess up your setup in some cases, so definitely be careful of that. At any rate, with that covered, I'm going to move on now to actually explaining the new game specific setup. So now that you've heard my explanation on the step backs and the lever, if you are here to see the new game plus setup, you can skip ahead to that. I'll have a timestamp. That's what that's called. I'll have a timestamp in the description of the video for where the new game plus setup's going to be, and for that matter, I'll have timestamps for where each individual tutorial for every different glitch starts. So I'll have all that in there. So if you're here for the new game plus one, you can go right to that. Anyway, I'm going to go over the new game one. So you would come up this ladder and you're just going to turn right away. And what you're going to do once you've turned right is you want to run into this corner. And it's worth noting that there's kind of 2 corners here you need to look out for. It's not actually likely that this would happen, but it's just worth noting. If I run to the right a little, see how I kind of slip into another little slot here? You don't want to be in this one. You want to be toward the left, like all the way in this corner, with your face against this wood post, pretty much. And this post is actually what we're going to be using for the visual cue for the setup. So you've come up the ladder, you've turned right, you're running into the post. So what you want to do is you want to actually continue running into this corner to be able to look for the visual cue. What you want to see is you want to see Leon's head aligned with this post pretty much while running forward. You don't have to run forward for that long, just long enough to, you know, either adjust yourself left or right, wherever you need, to see Leon's head aligned with that post. Although you don't want it quite perfectly centered with it, like this. You want it a little further to the right, like basically, like the post is a square piece of wood, right? So you can kind of see the 2 faces of it here. Like here's the side face that's like parallel to the ladder, and then here's this, like this face I'm saying, and then there's this other face of it, right? And when you're running in, you can kind of see the corner there, right? You can see the very corner of the post where those 2 faces meet. So what you're looking for pretty much is the left side of Leon's head to actually be very close to aligned with that corner. So not completely centered on the post, but, you know, just basically a little bit to the right of it. So that corner is definitely something you could use as a cue for that. So I'm going to go back down again and demonstrate setting that up in full motion. So I would just turn right, run in here, and, you know, and then you can stop running. Once you see his head's where you want it to be, you can stop running. and then you know you are set up correctly to start doing your backward steps. So that's when you're going to start doing those back steps like I talked about. Now, you want to keep stepping back until you see a jump down prompt come on screen. So usually that's going to be about 5 steps. It might vary depending if you do a large step, like I was talking about before. But you just want to try to get those minimum steps. So probably after 5, most of the time, that jump down prompt will appear. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, in this case it was 6. And that's just going to vary a little bit based on just your positioning. It can change. So, but at any rate, you know, don't necessarily count the steps. Just keep taking steps until you see that jump down prompt. And once you see that jump down prompt, you are going to take one more step. And this is where it is very important to make sure you don't do one of those phantom steps. Because if you do, and you think you've taken another step, if you jump down on this very first instance of seeing the prompt, that is where you can soft lock the game, like I was talking about before. It's not guaranteed that it will happen, but most likely if you jump down on that, the game is going to soft lock. Let's go ahead and see if it does. It actually did. I got the glitch. But I'm not really gonna keep trying until I get the soft lock, because every time you try to demonstrate the soft lock, it just doesn't happen. It's like a meme. So, but trust me, if you that's what you don't want. You don't want to jump down on that first instance of it. So I'm gonna step back until you see it once again. Okay, that's where I see it. Then you take one more step. That's what you want. Right, so I'm inside the fence. Then you simply turn around and run this way through this wall. And there's going to be 2 doors over here. The door on the left is where you ultimately want to go. But don't go over there. You have to go to this right door because it has a key item on it. So you're going to need that key item to progress through the game. So you have to go back inbounds there to get that key item and grab it. Yeah, I would like to actually demonstrate flipping out, but I swear it's like every time I'm not even gonna try, 'cause every time I try to show it, I can't even get it to happen. But like I said, just when you see the jump down, one more step from there should be safe. It's also possible for you to clip back in, and that means you've gone too far back. So if that happens, then most likely what has happened is, when you were taking your steps back, you probably took too big of a step somewhere, and that's most likely the reason that you've had that problem. But yeah, I'll do it once more just as a recap, and then I'll move on to the New Game Plus setup. Okay, so running into this post until I see the cue mentioned before. Pretty much Leon's, left of his head aligned with the corner of that post, and then step back till you see the jump down, and one more step. See, that was the phantom step. You don't want that. Get one more actual step, and you're good to go. Right through that wall and collect the key item back inbounds. That's the new game setup. So now I'm gonna show the New Game Plus setup. Now, first of all, if you've actually skipped ahead to this point in the video, I would recommend going back to the start of the video and watch up to the point where I start explaining the new game setup for Waterfall Skip, because before I started explaining that setup, I talked about several details about Waterfall Skip that you should know before getting into learning the setup. So if you haven't already watched that part of the video, I would recommend doing that before you watch me demonstrating how to set this up. But anyway, for the New Game Plus setup, just like with the new game setup, they work the same way in that you want to run into this corner. And there's going to be a certain visual cue that we're going to look for when we run into that corner. So all you're going to do is climb up this ladder and turn to the right and start running into that post. Now, There's actually kind of a secondary corner here that you should be aware of. It's not likely that you would end out in it, but just so you're aware of it. If I run to the right a little, you can see Leon kind of slips into another little slot there. You don't want to be in this slot on the right. You want to be all the way on the left here. And then you want to be running into this post, and there's a certain visual cue we'll be looking for in relation to that post. So what you want to do is actually be running into this corner to get the visual cue. So while running forward, you want to see the left of Leon's head, really his hat, like the very left part of his hat. You want to see that on the right side of the post. Or what you alternatively could be looking for is the right side of the back of the rocket launcher, like the black part where, you know, it gets the very end of it. The right side of that and the left side of his hat. They're pretty much in the same spot, more or less. So either one of those should work fine. It's not too terribly precise where you need to be. So if you look for either one of those, just to be on the right of the whole wood post, then you should be good. And once you see that visual cue is good, of course, you can stop running into the corner. So climb up, run in there. Once you see the cue, you stop running in. And this is where you would start taking your steps back. So what we want to do is we want to start taking steps back until we see a jump down prompt. Now, you have to be careful with this, especially on New Game Plus, because accidentally taking a big step is much more punishing here than it is on New Game. Because with Ditman active, you're going to take a pretty big step. So you need to try to be pretty light on your presses and just try to take small steps until you see the first jump down prompt, which usually is going to be 3 steps. If you successfully do those very small steps, it's basically going to be 3 steps. Now, once you see that very first jump down prompt, like as soon as you see that, you need to take one more step from this point. So ideally it would be 4 steps coming back, but it's not always going to be 4 steps depending on your positioning. Sometimes it might be 5, it might be 3, you know, just depending on both on positioning and how big of steps you took. But it'll be 4 if you took small steps. But I wouldn't count the steps so much as just step back until the very first time you see the jump down prompt, and then one more step from there, and that should be what you want. And it was. So I am now in the fence, and from there you just have to turn around. I clipped back in just because I was hesitating, but I'll show it in full motion. You want to turn around though to head to where we're going. Yeah, I just clipped back in because I didn't move right away, basically. But yeah, you would turn around and you would run on over to where these doors are. You do not want to go on the door on the left. You want to go to this door because that has a key item we're going to need to proceed through the game. So you want to get that key item when you go out of bounds. Also, another thing to note, if you end out using the safety checkpoint, of course you're not going to have Ditman anymore once you've reset that checkpoint, so you'll want to go ahead and reactivate your Ditman if you use that. But anyway, like I was talking about before, with the seeing the first jump down and then taking one more step, it's also important to note, like I said, if you take too big of a step, that can definitely mess things up. So like if I had taken a big step somewhere, maybe it's possible that you've gone too far back and you would actually clip back into the fence then. So you kind of need to look out for those big steps also. And likewise, if you take a big step, you might accidentally go further than the very beginning of where it says jump down, and that could cause problems for you as well. But at any rate, one thing I haven't mentioned yet, you definitely don't want to jump down on the very first jump down. That's the one that's going to give you the soft lock most likely. It's not 100% guaranteed that it's going to give you the soft lock, but most likely it will. And it's actually even more likely to do that when you have Ditman active versus on New Game where you don't have Ditman. So that's why you need one more step from where it says that. Now, if it just so happens that you've taken a big step somewhere, like there I took kind of a big step, maybe there's a chance that you happened to go right into the right spot. That's something you just kind of need to get a feel for. It's kind of a risky call. You need to get a feel for that. And it's kind of risky, right? Because on one hand, it's like I took a big step, so I might be in the right spot. It's risky either way, because if you go for that, then you may clip through. But if you also say, well, I'm going to take one more step to be safe, it might not be safe. In this case, it was what I wanted, but you may go too far back then and clip back in. So you kind of do need to get a feel for the actual spacing of it in case you take a big step. But of course, ideally, you want to try not to take those big steps. You want to try to just take your 4 proper small steps, and that'll get you what you need every time. But yes, there definitely are a lot of nuances to this, to where things can get messed up. There's a lot of different ways that this can get messed up, just from doing slight mispositioning or slightly too big of steps. You definitely have to be careful of all of that. But anyway, I'm going to do one more here where I recap an explanation on everything. Right, so you climb up the ladder, just turn to the right, run into the pole until the left side of his hat or the right side of the back of the rocket launcher is to the full right of the posts. You know, once you see that, you can stop running, and then you take your steps back until you see the first jump down, and then one more step from there, and then you jump down. Turn around, run through this wall, and clip back inbounds to collect this key item, and you will be good to go. Like I said, there's definitely a lot of ways that this can get messed up. I definitely recommend practicing it a lot and referring back to what I said. If you make mistakes, refer back to everything I've said to try to decipher what went wrong, because there are a lot of different ways things can go wrong. So it does take a little bit of time and practice to decipher everything that can happen and know how to fix it if you've made a mistake. And that's just something that will come with experience. But hopefully I gave you enough info there that should help you iron out those issues if you do have them. Well, first off, for anyone who isn't already aware, the minecart skip that you see people doing on PC at 60 FPS, that version is not possible for these consoles that are running at 30 FPS. That setup just isn't going to work. So there's a different setup that's used for versions that are running at 30 FPS. And that works a little bit differently. I'm going to explain the 2 different factors that there are to that. First of all, you do actually have to start the cart for this, which this does work on New Game Plus and New Game as well the same way, just like the other one, because you do have Ditman at this point. So you do have to actually start the cart for this, but before I start it, I'm going to explain the positioning involved with this. Pretty much to get this to work, you're going to need correct positioning and correct timing, both of which are actually fairly lenient. So you would start it up, you jump into this final cart, and you want to get your positioning set up in this final cart. So how this glitch works is, while it's running, we have to jump over into another cart like that at the right time and right positioning. So the positioning you want to get when you're in this cart, actually, I should mention as well, everything I'm going to explain here, you can do in the middle cart as well. There's not a huge speed difference between which cart you do it in. I think a few people have timed it, myself included, and we never really got anything conclusive. They're very similar in speed. So I would say try with both and just see which one is easier for you. I do it from the back cart, so I'm going to demonstrate it in the back cart. Anyway, you want to get set up in this corner. Just make sure he's completely in this corner. And then turn left to where you want Leon's left side, like his arm, to be lined up with, roughly lined up with the left corner of this cart in front of you here. And the same would apply. Again, all of this would apply if you're set up in the middle cart as well. But yeah, you want to roughly set up with the corner of that. It's not super precise. You could be a little bit right of it. You could be a little bit left of it. I've even had success going extremely far left of it. It's a little more lenient to the left than it is to the right. Like something like this probably would not work. But I wouldn't rely on the leniency of it. Know that it is lenient and that's very nice. But don't rely on that. Try to get it very close to lined up with this corner. Now, how it works, you get this positioning and then you have to wait for a certain timing to jump over. But you're not just jumping over at the right time. What it is you're waiting for the right time and then you step back and jump over. You have to step back once, like this. Okay, step back before I jumped over. And actually, I've never even really looked at this before, but you can even see something weird happens, even when the cart's not moving when you do this. Like he clips in a little bit, actually, even without the cart running. And pretty much the reason it works while the cart's running is the whole thing bends in a certain way when you come up to this bend up here. And that's when you're able to clip out. But yeah, the step back is also not super precise. You know, as long as you get some movement back. Like it can be a small step like that, or it can be a bigger step like that. As long as you're not doing too huge of a step back, it's gonna work. So I'm gonna go out of bounds now. I'm not gonna really explain the timing yet, because once I'm out of bounds, I can demonstrate a visual cue. Well, I can somewhat show it now. I'll try my best to explain it while I'm doing it. Let me zoom in over here. So, like I was showing before, you know, there's a bend that we're looking to jump over at. Now you see these wooden posts on the right? And the ganado spawn up there? They're actually already there. Never noticed that. But there's these wooden posts on the side. Supports for the platform that they're standing on. Those are going to be the visual cue we use. Okay? So, like I said, I won't actually explain that as I'm doing it yet. But when I'm out of bounds, I'm going to show you the details of the visual cue I'm looking for. Like I said, in this corner, lined up over here, step back, jump over. And that money pickup actually got in the way, but if you're mashing fast enough for that jump over, that should not be a problem even. You see, I still got it even with that pickup. And that's because just like the positioning, the timing on this is pretty lenient as well. You have a decent frame window. So anyway, like I was saying, these posts are the visual cues I use, right? So there's 6 of them. 6 individual posts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're not really looking for a specific one, but what you need to know about these 6 is they get darker at a certain point. So I'm going to try to artificially replicate what they are looking like as I'm backing up in the cart. So there's the first one, you know, very light in color. That's the second one, starting to get dark. Oh, yeah, the cutscene still plays when you're out here. Third one, you know, they're getting dark now, right? Darker in color. As you go, they get darker in color. So essentially what you want to do is just ride it, and then when you start to see that really dark color around here, you just want to wait a little bit, like a little bit longer, and then you're gonna step back and jump out. You're just looking for that dark color. And again, it's not super precise. So you start seeing the dark color, you know, here around the third post. I mean, even the second one's pretty dark, but you'll see a distinction. Like this one, you can kind of still see the texture of the wood grain in there. Then when you get to the third one, well, you can still see it, but you can clearly see it's much darker. So don't jump immediately when you see the dark color, but wait like a little bit longer. But the thing is, like I said, it's not very precise. Pretty much, I would say this is probably about the spot you want to do it, roughly. You know, it's just pretty much halfway through these things. But you can pretty much do it at any point during this last half. So you have like a decent bit of time to do it. Okay, so I will go ahead and try to demonstrate that. So just watch for the color now. Like watch the color and when I jump out. Like once it gets dark, I just wait like a little bit longer. Then I step back and jump out. In the corner, lined up on the left side. And see, I waited a decent bit. Like you could see that dark color for a little while, and I just waited and jumped. I'm gonna show it one more time just to show how late you can actually do this. I'm gonna try to wait until way at the end here. And I definitely wouldn't encourage waiting that long, but it's a good thing to know in case, for whatever reason, you haven't gotten set up yet. You know, you have a little bit more time to actually get that jump over. It's just good to know. Like, see, I literally waited until the last post for that one, and it still worked. So, and then yeah, once you're out here, you know, you can't go over this way. So, once you're out here, you have to run all the way down here through that. Like, once you get to this platform, then you can run through here. And come over here. And you'll be able to get to that downward spiral and go to the end. And that is 30 FPS Minecart. So as you can see, for demonstration purposes, I've actually already killed Salazar, just because it will be easier to show the details of this and explaining how to set it up without him in here. So we're going to do that. I'm going to try to explain this. This is definitely much more precise than most of the other glitches in the game. But how this is going to work, it's all based on riding along this wall. Okay, so there's several things you gotta look for. But basically, you want to run along this wall, and then eventually you're going to see the jump down prompt disappear. That's the first thing we're looking for. Okay? Jump down prompt goes away. That's the first thing we're looking for. Once you see that jump prompt has gone away, you want to stop. And you do get a feel for this over time, you know, when it's going to stop. So, like, I'm able to basically just run and stop immediately. But, you know, if you find yourself being like, oh, shoot, I reacted too late and ran too far, that could be an issue for going forward in the setup. So what I would recommend, if you're having that problem, is to run, and then when you know you're getting close, like, start kind of nudging and walking forward a little bit, like that. Or maybe not even nudge, but just, like, you know, walk forward. Like, you know, get to a certain point and walk like that. There should be enough time allowance. That's not going to matter too much. But yeah, at any rate, that's what you're looking for, is to stop right where it says, doesn't say jump down anymore. Now, once you've reached that point, you want to take 4 steps forward. Okay, so that was like, might have looked like 5, but one of those was, you know, a little nudge with no actual movement, like I described when I was talking about Waterfall skip. If anybody's jumping in the video and didn't, I guess I'll explain it again. In case anyone's jumping in and didn't watch that part of the video, I'll actually explain it again quickly. So when I say a step, I mean one, like, minimal amount of movement from Leon. Like, the minimum amount. But there is a weird nudge where just did it there, trying to intentionally do it. That was it. Like, you press forward, but he nudges a little bit and doesn't actually move. And that's just like if you get too light of a press. That one I did actually move. You saw it there before I did that move, and you'll kind of get a feel for that in time. He did it there. You'll notice it when you see it for sure. But anyway, that out of the way. So yeah, where it says doesn't say jump down anymore, and then 4 steps. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4. And this doesn't have to be super precise. You know, that's just essentially that's what I look for. I look for 4 steps. Now, once I've done those 4 steps, I turn right. Now, in this case, it said jump down immediately when I turned right, and you actually don't want that. So 4 steps is not, you know, like I said, it's not precise. It's not exactly 4 steps, you know? Really, if you did 4 steps and one of them was a little bit bigger of a step, that would probably be perfect. I guess I would say if you notice that all 4 of your steps were actually very minimal, then maybe do a 5th one. Because you actually don't want to see this jump down. Because if I do this right now, I may miss it. What you want to see is no jump down command. I'm going to try to set it up again to where it doesn't show the jump down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it actually does pretty much show jump down regularly if you do 4. So I would say, you know, obviously when you're doing this faster, you're a little bit more hasty about those 4 steps forward, so maybe they're a little bigger. You know, like those were pretty big, so that's what we want. You know, like I said, if you notice that you are getting small steps, you probably want to do a 5th one. You just really want to be careful not to go too far, because then it becomes very hard to recover. But this is what you want. When you turn to the right, you do not want to see jump down. And you want to turn to pretty much just face Salazar directly. And like I said, you do not want to see that jump down prompt when you turn right. Now what you do from here is you are set up at this point. All you want to do now, this is where the steps do matter. This is where you want to do really small steps forward until you see jump down. And if you go any more than a little tiny bit past where it immediately says jump down, then that's probably going to be too far. Here's a great demonstration of those nudges. I just did about 10. So there we go. I just took a small step forward, and that's the very first possible pixel, or at least very close to, where you can get a jump down, and that's where you're going to get it. So you saw I jumped down and landed, but I didn't jump down. And that's where you get the glitch. That's where you're able to float. So it is pretty precise. Like if you go, like I said, if you go too far past that first jump down, or if you're facing too far or too far right or left, can also affect it. But yeah, if you go past that first jump down, then it's probably not going to work. So that's the first jump down. And now I just took another step and it didn't work. So it's pretty precise. Now, also to explain what I was talking about before, the fact that you don't want to see a jump down prompt here, like that. If you see the jump down prompt when you turn, like I was saying you don't want to, it means that you are probably already too far forward where it won't work. That's not definitely the case, I should mention. It is entirely possible, and I've had it happen many times where I'll come over, I'll do my 4 steps forward, I'll turn, I'll have the jump down, which you don't want. And this just comes with experience, but I've had many times where I've turned, I've seen that it says jump down, which you don't want, but I've just known, based on feel and experience, I'll turn and I'll say, I pretty much know for a fact that this is the spot. I don't know for a fact on this one. I think it might be. Let's see. It is. So if you see jump down, you know, it's possible that you did get directly on the spot and don't even have to jump forward. And that's awesome, but I do not recommend going for that without a lot of experience because, again, I know that just from many, many times of doing it and just feel in muscle memory of where I know I need to be. But what I recommend doing, if you see that jump down when you turn right, I recommend just turning back left and taking another step and then turning back again. And then you can start your step forward to the first jump down. That's what I recommend doing to fix if you see jump down when you turn right. What else? One other thing before I'll demonstrate it live, and also show another setup. There's actually another simpler setup. If you find this one too difficult, there's a simpler setup that I'm also going to show off afterward with Salazar live in the room. And that one I can't really show off too effectively without him in the room because it's based on just running forward immediately upon your spawn point. So kind of hard for me to do that non-organically. But anyway, last thing I wanted to explain. So obviously you have a limited amount of time until Salazar is going to swing at you. So let's say you came in. Right, let's say you ran in, you do your setup. Boom, you take your 4 steps, you turn. Right, and you're like, oh man, like I'm sweating, dude, he's gonna swing soon, you know. Oh, it's taking me forever to step forward, you know. Something happens and you're like, oh, he's gonna swing soon. What you want to do, just stay calm, get yourself set up to the correct position. Like right now, I just stepped forward into that first jump down spot. This is where I want to be. This is where the glitch is going to work. Just stay calm. If you're running out of time, don't worry about it. Stay calm and just get set up, but don't jump down yet. If you are set up and he's about to swing, literally get to the spot like I am and wait. Wait until he swings. And you're going to see a QTE come on screen. To dodge the swing, do not hit the QTE, but instead mash your jump down button. When you see that QTE, mash your jump down button, and what's going to happen is instead of the attack hitting you and instead of doing the QTE is going to, after a little bit, vanish, and you will be allowed to jump down. And when you jump down, you're going to get invincibility frames that swing doesn't hit you, and then you'll be free to go through after that. So obviously you're going to lose time waiting for that attack to happen, but that is very important knowledge. That is a very, very clutch way to save an attempt that just took you too long to set up. That is something a lot of people don't know, and that's very valuable information for Salazar skip, especially when you're first starting out, I would say, when you know you don't have too much experience getting this thing set up quickly. That's very useful to know. Alright, so with that, I am now going to show it off a little bit with Salazar live in the room, and we'll get a good recap that way. Okay, so one thing I didn't mention yet before I go in, like in the case of Minecart skip, this is going to work the same exact way on New Game or New Game Plus. No, I didn't mention that yet. All you need is to dip into a grenade for this, and in fact, I also didn't mention this glitch is actually only possible with Dipman active. All you're going to want to do is run in there, you'll get the cutscene, you skip the cutscene, and you just start mashing inventory. You just want to Dipman right away. Then once you've got your Dipman, you know, you come out of your inventory and you just start running along that left wall. To the point where it doesn't say jump down anymore. Okay, I'm at the point where it doesn't say jump down anymore. Then you go for those 4 or 5 steps, you know. In that case, I did the 5 steps because I noticed that they were all small steps, like I was saying before. So now I've turned right to face Salazar. I'm facing him roughly, and that's where you start your steps forward until the first jump down. That might be too far. It was, but that was actually, that was a good example of what I was talking about. I'm glad that happened, actually. But yeah, that was barely too far forward and it didn't make it. So you can see this is actually not very lenient. But that was a perfect example of what I was talking about with the QTE. You saw it came on screen, but it just didn't matter. I was actually allowed to jump down just from waiting and mashing A. I didn't even intend to show that off, but that's good. I'm gonna... That's definitely good demonstration of that. Let's try to show it again now. So once again, running along this until it doesn't say jump down. Steps forward. Turn right. Step forward till the first jump down. And just jump down. And you're free to go. And yeah, as you can see, you don't have a tremendous amount of time. You do have a, you know, it's a decent amount of time once you've got experience with it, but it definitely takes a little while to do consistently. It's something that requires a lot of practice. Fortunately, it is very, very easy to repeatedly practice because it's as simple as resetting this room and you can just drill it over and over and over very conveniently. So it's definitely something I would recommend practicing a lot. Just show it one more time. Run along the wall until no more jump down. 4 steps, 5 steps forward. Okay, here's the one I was talking about. Yeah, okay. That's the one I was talking about before. That was demonstration of both the things I talked about before. I'm getting all these demonstrations in here I didn't even really intend to show. But it's, you know, it said jump down when I turned right, so like I was saying, I turned back left, stepped forward a little more, turned back right, and it actually still said jump down. And that was, you know, one of those cases where it was just in the right spot, so it worked anyway. So, getting demonstrations of everything I talked about in here. So one more actual one, let's see. So it doesn't say jump down. This one I gotta hurry on probably. Yep. You see, it's like if you do your steps forward along the wall accurately, you won't have to step super far forward to get the jump down. Because that one was like pretty sketchy in terms of how long it was taking me to get to the spot where I could turn right. But since I was well set up, I didn't have to step that far forward. Like, I think I literally took 1 step forward and I had the jump down. And we were good. Alright, so now I'm going to try to show what I like to call the Sunblade method. Because years ago, this was the method Sunblade always used. And it's slower, but it's very consistent. Definitely, if you're having a hard time with that method I just showed, and you just can't get it down, then I would definitely recommend this setup. A little bit slower, but definitely much simpler. So we're going to show that off a little bit now. Alright, so the Sunblade method. Same deal, you want to just get in here, get your Ditman active. Except with this one, instead of running along the wall the way I do, you're actually going to run straight into the wall. When you come out of the inventory here, you are just going to hold straight forward, and you actually will slowly glide along the wall. But you're just running straight forward, and you're just doing that until your jump down prompt disappears, and then it's the same thing. You know, turn right a little bit. Actually, with this one, you don't even have to really turn all the way right to face Salazar. You just have to turn right, you know, a little bit, and then you can take your steps forward until that first jump down command, the same way. But as you see here, just holding forward, and he does actually glide along this wall. Literally just holding up on the control stick. Until jump down is gone, turn right, step forward. The only disadvantage, as you see, that was pretty close to when he swings. The only disadvantage is it is a slower method. So you do have to be pretty quick on your step forward to be able to get it. But it's very simple. You know, you don't have to worry about any kind of precise initial setup like with mine. The only real precision you have to worry about is the stepping forward to get the first possible jump down after turning right. But other than that, it's just run until it's gone. And in this case, it said jump down right away. With this method, I wouldn't worry about that actually. Like if you ran forward, I mean obviously it worked here, but if you ran forward until it didn't say jump down and you turned right and it says jump down, I would just go for it. There may be a chance that it doesn't work, but in my experience doing it this way, which isn't that much, I haven't done it this way very many times, but it seems with this method, as long as that jump down is gone, if you turn right and you have the jump down, it seems like it usually works. But yeah, usually you will not have that, so you would turn right and then do your steps forward with jump down. And that's really the only hard part, and that's just you're holding forward and waiting for that jump down to vanish. I actually went too far, so that's something you definitely don't want to do. You can fix it, but I'm not really going to try to explain that, to be honest. That's a little more in-depth. Definitely just be careful. You know, look out for that jump down. And just like with my method, if you need to, just like slow down when you get to the end. You could just start walking when you get to the end to not go past it. Like that. And turn right, jump down. Well, turn right, step forward, jump down. It's definitely a much simpler method than mine, you know. It eliminates the amount of precise things at the expense of being a little slower, but I think it should definitely be easier for someone new to get consistent at this. So if you're having a hard time with my setup, I would definitely recommend to go for this, you know, get this down to where you're comfortable with it, and just do this in runs and do my method in practice until you're comfortable enough with that to do that in runs. This one, you know, very simplistic, shouldn't be too hard to get at least relatively consistent at. Originally, I wasn't going to do island skip, but I figured while I'm at it and coming right off of Salazar, I may as well. So originally, with the old setup, I'm going to go ahead and do the old setup for fun. The old setup was 30 FPS only, didn't work on 60 FPS. But now we have new setup that's fairly recent, and that works on every version of the game, regardless of frame rate. This is the old version. I'm not going to talk about how to do the old version because there's no reason to do this anymore. You don't have to do this ever again. But that's what island skip used to look like, right there. It was only possible at 30. But regardless of the fact that I do believe there are some tutorials out there for this new version, and it's no longer 30 exclusive, you know, while I'm at it, I may as well go ahead and do this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and explain it. So if you look on the ground, there's a certain jump down cue you want, right? This is where the new one is done. You want to use this wall here, and you'll be able to climb up and get out of bounds on this wall right here. So if you look on, you're coming down this path, and then you want to jump down here. You look at the floor, there's this black spot, really dark spot on the ground, kind of triangular shape, and it comes to a tip on the right side and disappears. You want to jump down roughly in that spot. What you ideally want to see is when Leon jumps down, he places his left hand on the ground. I'm gonna actually deactivate Didman so that it's slower and easier to see. He places his left hand on the ground when he jumps down. You want his left hand to basically be right very close to, you know, either on or a little left of the tip of that black spot. Right like that. It was right on the tip of the black spot there. So that's pretty much what you're looking for. You know, if you don't get that, it's not a huge deal. But, I mean, to get that, pretty much just, you know, you can look down with the camera while you're going over. Or you can just get a feel for it without doing that. I like to look down with the camera. And I just pretty much judge it based on, you know, where his left arm is at. Because where his left arm is more or less where it's going to be when he jumps down. So that's all I'm looking for. Get my Ditman active again. And this glitch will work with or without Ditman. And if you're playing on a SD version like the GameCube or the PS2, it's actually going to be faster to do this without Ditman active. But the setup should more or less be the same with or without Ditman. So that's good. But yeah, that's all I'm looking for, is just the left arm to be lined up roughly with that spot. So once you've jumped down in that spot, you want to step back to the wall that's behind you. Now you don't want to hold super far back, because then he's going to start jostling around a little and stuff. He doesn't really move too much, actually. I thought he moved more than that. So I don't think you have to worry about it too much, but, you know, just back up to the wall and stop. So I'm going to get reset up now, since I messed around. Okay, so back up to the wall, cool. Then you're going to turn left. And what you want to look for here when you turn left is there's this stone right above me, overhanging the ledge. I'll point at it just in case you can't see what I'm talking about. This stone right here. Okay, that's what we're looking at for this setup. And I'm going to get reset up again. I don't know if aiming around like that messed it up, but I wanted to make sure you knew what I was talking about. Okay, jump down on that spot that I talked about, back up to the wall, turn left. Okay, so there's that stone, right? Now, it doesn't have to be super precise, but you essentially want Leon's right shoulder to be somewhere in the part of that stone that is overhanging. Like, if you look on the left side, there's a part of it that's kind of up top where you jumped down from. And that part pretty much ends on that black spot of the wall. That's up top. So there's this part that's overhanging, and it has this curvature to it, this round, right? And you want Leon's shoulder to be lined up somewhere in that round spot. I think pretty much center of it is ideal, I would say. So that's pretty much where I am right now. I'm roughly center of that round spot. And I think there's a little bit of leniency on it. I don't think it's super precise, but I don't think it's super lenient either. So try to aim his shoulder roughly in the center of that when you turn left, okay? Now once you're in that spot, you just start doing little steps forward. So I've got the first climb down command there. That is not the one we want. We want the second climb up command. So once you see that first one, take one more step. That wasn't it. Obviously. But back in. So let's now do that in somewhat more full motion. Okay, that's the second climb up. Boom, climb up. You should be out. Okay, I didn't clip back in, so I am out. Now once you've climbed up, you just want to hold upright to be able to run into that wall. Don't turn right. I'm pretty sure that will clip you out. So run upright direction on your stick. And then once you are out here, like, okay, you've run out, then you want to continue turning upright, you know, to where you're now heading this direction, and you can see a fire up there. That's how you know you're heading the right way. Now this is where you got to be careful, because down there you can see the path that they want you to go, right? And there's a jump over there. There's water between them, and there's a jump over. What you want to make sure you do as you're running this direction is to run in between those two parts of the path where the jump over would be, because if you go on either side, you will actually clip somewhat in bounds. You won't be able to keep going forward. So you want to make sure you run right between those. Look down with the camera. And then again, using the fire as a cue, you pretty much want to run right toward that area, and you should get a QT prompt for a boulder being pushed off the ledge, which is something that normally happens if you do this area the normal way. So doing that, you'll be able to perform the QT, and then you will be, you know, plopped into the area that normally you would be doing that QT at. So I think aiming for the barrels is pretty much your best bet, and you get that QT, boom, and then you're up here, and you can just proceed to the end. The only thing you got to deal with then is not getting grabbed by this guy, which can be a little bit tricky. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's a super difficult glitch, but it does take a little bit of getting used to, for sure. I'll do it one more time through in full motion. Like I said, there's that black triangle. Get Leon's left arm lined up with that. Boom. Back up to the wall, turn left till his shoulder's, you know, roughly in that curve of the stone. Step forward until... Okay, I forgot about mentioning this. Sometimes, depending on your precise position, you won't get a second climb up command. Because I stepped forward to where the first one was, and I stepped forward again, and I didn't get a second one. Instead, it just vanished. That can happen sometimes, just depending on your exact position. If that happens, really you just have to step back to where it was, climb up, and hope it works. And usually it will, like in that case. I think there are some cases where it won't, but most of the time that's gonna work. So that's kind of what to look out for if that does happen. But that's not necessarily common. I wouldn't say it's really rare either, but if that happens, just step back. But yeah, anyway, jumping down on the tip of that black triangle, back up to the wall, turn, line up the shoulder with the stone, start stepping forward. Second climb up. Turn right. Through the spot in the middle. And run toward the fire and the barrels. And you'll get the QT. And then you have successfully performed a new island skip.